has other objectives. Mine is to get us out of here in 90 minutes. And, public comments, you got anything to say about it?
Yes. Yesterday I was taking the commuter rail from Rosalie Square to Boston at about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and there's a sign saying that in the middle of the day, avoid the train at on track 1. I don't know which track 1 is. So, and there's no sign saying which is track 1 and which is track 2. So I'm standing there, there's someone else there, but there are a lot of people on the other side, so I called over and asked. If someone hadn't told me, I'd be waiting and maybe going in the direction of the whistle.
That's a wayfinding issue. What station is it again?
This is a Rosalie Square.
Okay, all right. We will note it. Bring that to wayfinding. Okay, so it's yours to run.
I'm sorry, I'm late, everybody. I also don't have a copy of the agenda.
And this is a short agenda this time because we have no speakers, so
Right.
we're just going to do subcommittee reports.
Perfect.
And then minutes, whole business, new business, meetings.
Great. So is it time for subcommittee already?
I would say so, since
Well,
yes. Yeah.
I have a tiny comment, if I could, a
Sure.
public comment. I've been noticing more bus drivers using their cell phones. I don't know if that's an issue, but
First I've heard of it. I mean, certainly they're not. Do you mean when they're driving? Or?
yeah.
Okay.
I mean, like stoplights but kind of missing the turn of the light to green.
Well, I would say if you ever note it, note the bus number that you're on and send it.
Yeah, I hate to be an individual snitch, but I wonder if there could be a one-sentence announcement reminding people. You probably do that all the time, but
Yeah.
just a suggestion. And I actually didn't notice which bus it was, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to ever. I could send an email to bus operations.
Yeah,
but
okay.
They're
All right.
not gonna.
Okay, well, I just wanted to
Anything
note
specific.
it. I just wanted to note it for folks.
Are they talking on the phone or are they texting?
I think they're mostly looking or texting, and like what normal people do.
So what route are you on?
Well, today was on the 88,
The
but
80?
it happened on 88,
Yeah.
but it happened on another route within the last 2 days as well.
Both coming out of that garage, that same garage thing?
The other one, honestly, I can't remember.
All right. Yeah.
I'll try to be more attentive.
Well, it just helps to be
Yeah.
specific. They can target it to their operator then.
Right.
Yeah, and I do hear the operator announcements, so I could, if I was really listening, I could get the operator.
You just get the bus number, which you right at the contract. That should be enough.
His route, yeah. I can understand reluctance, to consider yourself a snitch, but they're going to want to know that information. And as you probably know from human nature, you send out a general broadcast, and everyone assumes that it's targeted to someone else, even if they are guilty. You zero in on them. It's like there's no escape, and if safety really is your concern,
No, I get it. That's why I brought it up. I mean, I've said in the past, in general, I'm really impressed with the quality of the bus drivers, given how challenging the job is. Thank you.
I also just would like to, this is sort of, I don't know nothing, but I served on a jury recently with an MBTA bus driver. And she was smart and kind, and they made her the foreperson of the jury, and she was just incredibly thoughtful and kind, and exactly the type of person that you would want driving the bus and on the jury, and being in the jury of your peers. So anything else with new business, or should we move on to subcommittee reports? The subcommittee reports it is.
Brian?
Sure. So Capital Investment Finance Committee, subcommittee we met last week. Another great guest, organized by Brendan Fogarty from the MBTA. Brennan is involved with the PERC Pass, which is the new name for the kind of corporate monthly pass, if you will. So what essentially the offering of part of the PERC Pass is, it's not really a unique fare product, but it is a way to market the ability for corporate employers and their employees to access the MBTA on a pre-tax basis. So employees can enroll in the plan through their employer. Employers can go through with kind of no out-of-pocket costs. All they have to do is just offer the plan, and their employees get to take advantage of the tax savings by going through the employer. Employers could also subsidize, and I think there were some stats, I don't want to make anything up, but I think there are some stats that were employer subsidized, employees have a higher uptake of usage of the PERC program. So one of the things that Brendan and the PERC program is trying to do is to look at employers and kind of communicate the message out that there are already a lot of employers that do subsidize the program, and get that message out to employers that don't subsidize to say, you guys are either a minority of employers or at least not in the vast majority. So kind of take the stigma away from subsidization of public transit. We also talked about some of the tax implications of the plan. So right now there is a difference between how much can be deducted on a pre-tax basis for federal purposes and for state purposes. Talked about some of the initiatives that could happen within the state to switch that. So right now, right now it's lower for state than federal, but it's also lower for state for transit than it is for parking. Federal used to be that way, and I think recently that had changed, and now transit is $260 a month, and I forget what parking is, but I think it's somewhere around there, but just slightly less. So Massachusetts, with the tax structure, doesn't incentivize their state residents to take advantage of the plan fully by incentivizing parking for transit. So we're hopeful that some representatives will take a look at that and kind of fix that situation, and that will also drive utilization. We talked a little bit about the impact to low-income riders of the PERC program, not necessarily the PERC program itself, but just the pre-tax implications. So obviously, if you are a fully employed resident and your marginal tax rate is say 25% on the federal level, you're receiving a bigger benefit from the PERC program than if you are employed on a part-time basis at a lower rate wage, and your marginal tax rate might be 0, might be 10%, something like that. So just kind of inherent to the system, like any tax program or any tax deduction, you are receiving less of a benefit. So we're going to talk about some of the efforts of PERC to engage some of those employers at that level and kind of market the T a little bit more. I think some union engagement and really try to flip that kind of inherent inequality of the system to try to get more of those subsidies for those low-income riders so that they're also benefiting from the transit ridership. We talked about some of the ways that the PERC program can be marketed to employers, and that was something where Brendan asked for input and ideas. So if there's any input and ideas from any members of the ROC, he would certainly love to hear about them. I kind of talked about, for example, looking at statistics where employees that are part of the PERC program or enrolled in kind of a monthly transit program either have a lower turnover rate or higher morale. So not that those statistics exist, but kind of a recommendation that if those were available to kind of go to employers to market it. So Brendan mentioned the T didn't necessarily have the statistics, but he also looked at some of the third-party providers in the space like ADP. He mentioned their marketing materials kind of reference similar type benefits of being involved in the program. So trying to market the program, trying to get higher involvement. We talked about possibilities for mandatory enrollment. So he referenced New Jersey as a state where every employer within the state, I believe, has to enroll in kind of a similar pre-tax program. So that is, I guess there's a few ways to think about it. One is mandatory enrollment in the PERC program itself, which is kind of just simply offering your employees access to the pre-tax transit. It's not providing any sort of subsidy. We also talked about a framework for mandatory enrollment within an employer. So I think MIT is the well-known example in the Boston area. All of their employees have access to an unlimited pass on the MBTA. I think it's linked, we talked about it in this form in the past, it's linked to, I believe, their employee identification. So that's also like a dual, I might be making this up, but just in theory, think of it that way. So we're going to talk a little bit about the pricing structure and how that works. And kind of the point being that for that mandatory enrollment, they're not looking at doing any sort of like a one-off discount, like an individual negotiation with each employer, but some sort of framework that would apply to all employers, and then all employers would be able to participate in that sort of program to enable folks to save money. Brendan indicated, so I think this started in October 2018 as kind of a rebranding, if you will. I think he indicated the uptake so far has been positive. So 150 to 200 net new employers had enrolled so far with the new marketing. There's a bit of branding to go along with it. I think some unique colors. It's colorblind with yellow, green. Hopefully, one can come with that. But
so yeah, these green.
Green.
I'm not colorblind, but I don't tend to pay attention to colors.
Yeah,
so you can tell sometimes when they dress.
So anyways, it's some unique branding going on there. And some good success so far. We talked a little bit about means fair testing for Seattle. I think that was kind of outside of our discussion about PERC, though. But again, I think the main takeaway there is if there's any ways to improve the marketing of this, certainly reach out to Brendan. I think Brendan has contact information that I probably should as well. That was mostly our update from the discussion we had with Brendan. We talked a little bit about some of the recent MBTA. We also talked about the fare increase a little bit. Anything else that we talked about beyond?
We talked about the lockbox, I forget what they call it now, PAYGO, and there was a background that just changed my mind about how I feel about the lockbox, especially when they give a number with respect to how much they save in terms of interest rate by funding short-term capital projects out of the PAYGO, because I had been pretty strident in my feelings about taking that money away from operations, because operations is really hurting. And I still wish that a lot of money went into more money into operations, because there are shortcomings that are caused by especially lack of people in operations. But if they are going to fund short-term capital projects that have an immediate impact on the riding experience, and they save $125 million in interest, that's a very good argument for it. And so maybe they have been assuming that people like us would understand, the interest savings. But in theory, I did, but there was no quantification of it. That gave me a number to kind of latch onto, which I thought was a good number. So it really has changed my mind on how I feel about putting money into the PAYGO capital funding system. So that's good. So that was thank you, Brian. I can never do a report as good as that.
That was a great report.
One also thing I would just go through my notes here, Len, you brought up just something to keep an eye on looking forward, talking about the capital outlays. And a lot of the funding, at least in the near term, is federal funded.
Yeah.
And potentially that might drop off, I think, starting in 2024, 2025. So I know a lot of the federal funding is perhaps project-based, a lot of it's tied to the Green Line. But essentially the breakneck pace of spending and development and funding, everything that's been going on the last couple of years, out in the horizon, there's potential that might drop off a bit if there's not just source of funding that's found either federal or kind of what else it might be.
Yeah, that came out of the ABC, Better City update on the Transportation Finance Committee report, so that's online. And yeah, I mean, that is the case. For MBTA, it's definitely going to drop off. And there are also some other capital projects that have been ramped up. I think like the bridge replacement, the program has been, pushed full forward. And so even on highway level, they're going to lose a lot of capital funds in the intermediate term. So looking out 10 years, you're seeing a dearth in financing for major capital projects. And so that transportation report, ABC does encompass more than just the T. But I think it's really good for us to get a good handle on transportation in general, so we understand how transit fits inside that, and certainly what other demands on the financial resources there are on the state, so that we know how to better target what we want, what we advocate for.
So I think that's a summary of our report. Any questions?
Could I just ask a few on the, because for example, my employer offers the T-Pass, and we get a discount. Where does that, for some reason, I always had it stuck in my mind that they actually get the passes through the MBTA for less, and that they're just passing that on to us.
So, potentially, but the discussion we have with Brendan is that the likely solution or the likely answer is that your employer is providing a discount to you. I don't, unless there's a special arrangement that they made, unless you guys are particularly large and they were able to provide some sort of discount. But probably your employer is providing that subsidy.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, I think that's definitely the case that you always provide it.
Yeah, because it's the first time I've ever worked any place, and it's a big company, and it's the first time I've ever worked any place where just the convenience of being able to get your pass for that is fantastic. You know, and you don't have to have any money on you because it's coming right out of your check. You know, like everything about it is so positive, and then they give us a slight discount on it too. But I started there about 10 years ago, and to me it was just the most wonderful thing.
Yeah, it's a great program for
Yeah, you just go get your pass.
The only reason they don't have like really detailed numbers on the number of businesses or employees that are engaged in programs that a lot of them do their payroll and that kind of accounting through some other third-party entity. I forget what it's called. It starts with a W or something. And I think maybe it covers like a third of the companies or something. Like a big percentage of companies are doing their payroll, that kind of accounting through that entity, so you can't really get inside those numbers and figure out what it is, how many people are enrolled. Yeah, I mean that was the explanation. When I think about it, it's like, well, I hardly know how many passes are going out. But anyways, the guys on the ball, so if that's the case, that's the case. And we've been in touch since then. And with regard to what Brian mentioned about the disparity between parking, tax benefit versus transit, I guess with parking, you can get $260 back, and transit can only get $130, and the state has put a freeze on the ability to bring transit up to parking without some legislative action. And so he had created a little summary internally. He gave that to me, and also I'm going to talk with people at MAPC and Transportation, Transportation of Massachusetts, and run that by them and see what they think can be done. Elizabeth Grant, who used to be on the Rock, I think she's still at MAPC, that's Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and she did legislative interface, or she's like the legislative liaison for them, so she would know the best way to deal with that. And I think to the extent it's viable, I think Chris Dempsey and the folks from T4Pass probably be all over it. So now it's just a matter of can we get it in this legislative cycle, do we for the next let y'all run it past them, and if they go for it, hopefully they will go for it. We need to go along with the asking.
So, we have not brought up the university pass idea in a while, and I wonder if that's worth getting an update on. Seems like there's a lot of longer-term transit initiatives kind of in discussion at this point. I did see this Joanne had rollout of the Lower Mystic Transportation Plan in Charlestown a week ago. All of the Charlestown activists were absent, notably, which I take as a negative vote on the suggestion of the BRT as the solution there, because they had been pretty intensely involved in the discussions of the casino and what's going on there. But you know, periodically MIT comes up as having a better model than most of the other universities, and that's been happening for 30 years. And you know, Larry Bacow was #2 at MIT before he was president of Tufts, before he was president of Harvard. Harvard and MIT are both initiating very large development projects that involve both their own campuses and allied research economy. And they are going to put an enormous strain on Kendall Square and Alston. So it just seems like there should be an ability, by putting together a couple of groups that Lynn has mentioned, and maybe some people in this building, to revisit the idea of the UPass and a couple of things.
Well, I mean, if it were mandated, all businesses, I would assume it would include universities, mandated. If it was mandated, they had to be part of the pass program. That would take care of that. So that seems like a good way to kind of go forward, and then no one feels like they are selected out. I mean, the last I heard about the University Pass Initiative, Stephanie Pollock had taken that. And once it's in her hands, you might as well just kind of give up on it unless you decide. No, really. I don't mean that. I guess I do mean it somewhat disparagingly, but it's just unless she wants to do anything with it, she's not going to go anywhere. It's
well, maybe it's worth just putting together a couple of opinion leaders.
Well, you know what? You're part of our committee. You want to take that on?
Well, I'm happy to do a little bit, but I would want the benefit of your ideas. Those of you who've been thinking about this.
Okay. Well, give me my thoughts, and I'll support you. Because it's like,
no, really. If someone wants to send me a couple sentences in emails, I'll try to shoehorn it in about a million little things. But
yeah, we're all busy.
I know, yeah. But I think it's pretty important.
Yeah, I hear you. And to the extent you want to drive it, drive it.
Thank you. Sorry I missed the meeting. I was involved in transportation. All right, guys.
Any report on the capital investment?
You mean operations?
Operations?
I can. I've got my notes up.
Sorry.
That's fine. No problem. From March 14th, we did a bit of planning ahead right off the bat. We're intending to put an invite out to Logan Nash, who is the new Dave Barker. Dave Barker moved up, and Logan Nash is now the guy who is in Dave Barker's old role in charge of, unless I'm forgetting, or unless I had the wrong notes, Rob. Dave Barker used to be in charge of real-time data and predictions and all of those geeky things, and now that's Logan Nash. We haven't, I believe no one here on the committee's ever met him, so we're planning on reaching out to him. I'm going to skip over the next upcoming because that's worthy of a discussion amongst all of us, but an interesting point came up about operations versus capital. I don't know if this is really anything that's actionable as much as it's just an observation that someone made during the subcommittee meeting. The agency has capital money to put in new lighting fixtures, but not always necessarily the operational money to change the light bulbs in the lighting fixtures that are there. And that's, I'm paraphrasing what somebody had said at the meeting, but I thought that was a very good illustration of the state of affairs when it comes to something like station upkeep. Yeah, go ahead.
I just want to interrupt to say that. And I'm gonna name him because hopefully he'll come in. But it was Craig. And Craig had actually suggested that, they assess what needs to be done, and just do it. And we just heard yesterday, that they're going to do this spring cleaning thing on having the new station. So I was just kind of wondering if Craig had gotten in someone's ear and made it happen.
That's an interesting idea. Yeah, I hadn't thought of it that way. That's a very astute observation. Yeah, it was, yeah.
Yeah, it was right up his alley. When they said that, it's like, oh, Craig must be jumping up and down.
Yeah. Okay. Something that I'm not sure how we can follow up, but we'll probably start with Dave Carney in bus operations. It was observed that when there's, or not when, but right now, with the elevator replacements going on at Central, there is a 40-foot bus and an operator standing by for just in case someone with a mobility need needs to get from Central to Kendall or Kendall to Central.
But also Andrew.
Yes, thank you. And also Andrew to Broadway has a shuttle bus for an elevator replacement, and that is another 40-foot bus with an operator. Pretty much, I believe, unless I'm mistaken, it's during the entirety of hours of service. And that's quite a resource to be tied up. And we're going to find out, we'll ask Dave Carney next time we talk to him about what goes into that allocation, the decision-making for that allocation. Is there really no other way to provide a necessary paratransit or mobility accessible alternative? Go ahead.
Yeah, some of the cities and towns, especially in the core, have their own paratransit. Like Somerville has paratransit with small vans, and Cambridge does as well. And so.
But do they serve as elevator out for the MBTA? I doubt it.
No, this is for people who need to go from one station to another because the elevator is out. This isn't about elevator servicing. It's about transporting the people who can't use the elevator because it's out.
So it is, they're supplying MBTA service then? The elevator is out at the station.
Right.
So in Somerville?
No, what I'm saying is that instead of having a bus, I think what's being brought up is that you could have a more appropriately sized vehicle.
No, I realize that, but Somerville is doing it.
I don't know if Somerville is...
No, I doubt it, because we have a senior shuttle in Boston, and the senior shuttle would be perfect.
Yeah, we have senior shuttles too, but I'm just speaking to this one instance, whether the T could work with the locality of the disruption to see if there's a more appropriately scaled service.
I think what came up at the meeting was, could the T use a different vehicle? It could be a T vehicle, but...
Right.
Even one of the ride vans or something.
Exactly. But on top of that, the question also came up of whether or not it is in the contract with whomever is doing, or could be put into the contract with whomever is doing the elevator rebuild to provide that shuttle service. For example, when other major construction, other major capital campaigns have been taken on, the first thing that comes to mind is I'm more of a commuter rail guy. Is the PTC work. The contractor was paid. Sorry, the contractor did pay, arranged for private shuttle buses. Beverly Drawbridge also. Could that be added to the elevator replacement contract?
But then, yes. But then there has to. I can't see where the money. So the contract will all of a sudden cost a lot more.
Right, I don't see the.
Well, it's gonna cost something no matter.
No, but
who
it
we're
may,
paying
it
for
may
but
end
is
up
it-
costing more going via the contract versus the T supply.
Oh, right,
Yeah.
exactly. And that might be a question more appropriately targeted at the finance subcommittee.
Or maybe, you know, if we get Dave Carney to answer why, he must know why they use the big buses and not something
Yep,
small.
and if there's a money
it may
element to it that he
be-
knows, I'm sure he'll tell us about it.
It
Very
also
frankly.
may be a union thing, who
Yeah,
knows?
could be. A lot of speculation there, apologies for that. There's also a note about the question was, what is the determination point between a rehab versus a replacement? In other words, the source of the funding, I believe we were thinking was, if it's a replacement, it's coming out of capital versus if it's a rehab, it might be coming out of operations. Was that, am I paraphrasing what we said in the meeting correctly? So again, if it's replacement capital or rehab operations or just repair, who makes that determination? How is it made? Is there a formula?
Right. I mean, repair would be operations, rehab would probably be capital.
You think, okay. Great. And finally, yep, that covers everything except our final note. Last month, we were talking briefly about the fact that there is an AFC 2.0 test lab. I got in contact with Anthony Thomas and asked him if the Rock could have an official tour of the AFC 2.0 test lab, and he said enthusiastically, yes.
Okay.
So the question is simply, when do we want to all go? The regular subcommittee. I didn't have it up in front of me. I'm going to try to pull up his reply with the times. Apologies, it should be right in front of me.
You said
there it
April?
is.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. You pulled it up at the same time. And, sorry, tap. Okay, he gave us choices. I don't know if anybody has a calendar in front of them, but basically, anytime during the day on the 12th was an option, or
Those are all
April?
April dates.
April, yes, all April dates, thank you very much.
So that's a Friday.
Or anytime during the day or evening, the definition of evening to be determined, but that's on April 15.
That's a Monday.
Yep,
That's also Patriots Day.
Oh, right.
I don't know if
He probably doesn't even realize it's Patriots
That would be
Day.
difficult.
That's a date.
that's a good point. For what it's worth, he said it's right adjacent to Government Center. So easy to reach, but you're right, we wouldn't want to be getting anywhere near the Green Line on Patriots Day. The 16th, anytime during the afternoon or evening, quoting him. The 17th in the morning, or the 18th, anytime late afternoon or evening.
Well, the Capitol meets on the 18th, so
So I'd say
what do you think, Lenny?
The 16th or 17th, you know, so we have Rob, I'm sorry, not Rob, we have Steve Andrews coming to talk with us about equity analysis. I mean, so he and Laurel is coming to that, so.
That's good.
Yeah,
Mhm.
that's gonna happen, so, so I would say the 16th or 17th. I mean,
Stefan, how long would
Actually-
this, I'm sorry,
yeah, I stopped, you go ahead, no.
how long would this take?
Knowing us, it could be over an hour, but I'm sure that we could.
No, that's reasonable.
Yeah. I mean, the photo in the FMCB meeting slide presentation showed a row of turnstiles. It showed one of the tap validation machines, and I believe I saw also the current turnstiles with the AFC 2.0 addition bolted onto it. So it's a full assortment of old with modifications and the brand new. I mean, I'll find out the details, but if we're zeroing in on afternoon or evening of the 16th, is that better for people than the 17th in the morning?
That's a lot better for me to do the 16th.
Yeah.
Okay.
16th.
Anyone absolutely unable to who really wants to on the 16th?
Yeah, I have a meeting at night, but I don't have to, you know.
You said it's at night?
I have a meeting in the Fenway at 6:30 at night, but that's okay.
I'll find out if we can start at 5. We normally would start
No,
a
I wouldn't
committee
go.
meeting at 5.
I
See if we
wouldn't
could
go
do it.
because it would be too hard for me to get.
Yeah,
Don't worry
that's-
about me. Don't worry. I'm
Okay.
good. You can all tell me how wonderful it was,
Or not.
or not.
Or, well, I mean, not, we would tell you, and we'll see how wonderful it is.
Yeah. So I'm just, don't worry.
The 17th is fine for me.
But that's in the morning. I think that's not good for most people.
Okay, so it's only in the morning, the 17th?
That's what he said, was,
Yeah.
yeah, just morning in the 17th.
All right.
So I can do the 16th in the afternoon, the late afternoon, I'm thinking, 4 o'clock on. I
Mhm.
could do the 16th.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, I could, from 4 o'clock. I could
Yeah,
do
that's
it.
what I'm saying, he could
Yeah,
do
do
it,
it
he can
anytime.
do it at like 4. I
Oh,
would.
yeah, I could do it at 4.
Okay.
Do you think he could, can anybody else do it at 4?
No problem.
Yeah.
Yeah, because then that way we're doing, after, late afternoon, and that sort of opens up things.
Okay. That sounds like we got a consensus. I'll ask him about 4 p.m. on April 16, which someone, I don't have a calendar in front of me at the moment.
That's a
It's a Tuesday.
Yes, Tuesday.
Fantastic. Okay, I'll follow up with email with everybody on the regular mailing list.
Yeah, great, thanks.
And that wraps up everything that I had to say. Unless there's any questions, we can move on.
Should we do any prep work before?
Good
What do you have-
question.
What do you have in mind?
So we can ask some good questions.
Of course, of course.
Well, if you wanted to transfer $1,000 into my banking account so I can test
You know
some
what? You know,
payments by
So I
tapping.
can
We'll
get into
split that, you
Harvard?
take 5, I'll take 5.
No, well, there was a deck, a presentation on it, and so they have discovered some things already through testing with the public, so I suggest you read that, get a
Where?
sense of, huh?
Where can we
It's on
find it?
FMCB, it's you go to MBTA's main
Oh.
page, and then you go to FMCB, they'll have a calendar, and you can go to the meetings, and I don't remember exactly what meeting it was.
I'll send it to the main mailing
Yeah,
list.
but isn't that the FMCB that you can't scroll through it, so you have to listen to the whole meeting? That
No,
you
no,
can't-
They have
it's a slide.
presentations, they have the presentation.
I'm starting to draft an email to the mailing list with the link to the PDF,
Okay, good,
and I'll
good.
attach the file right now.
Sounds good.
So now we can ask Craig.
I was gonna say, don't we have a question for Craig?
Yes, we do. How about that?
Hi, Craig.
We're going on a
so-
tour.
I feel like it's casual evening here at the,
It
at the
is,
Improv.
it is, but you dressed up nonetheless.
Put on your calendars if you can get out of work. The
Um,
16th of April at 4 o'clock, we're going to go to that place where you learn about the new AFC 2.0.
Yeah, the AFC test lab, the general consensus before you came in was 4 p.m. on the 16th, which is a Tuesday, looks like the best bet for everybody.
Please proceed without me. I will be out of town then.
That's too bad.
Where? Where's it going to be?
I am California.
Oh,
Okay.
where are you going?
I will be in Northern California. I will make sure this is all in the notes. It's very,
Yeah.
very specific.
Yeah.
My wife was born and raised in Northern California.
Where the birds was filmed?
So we are, what's that?
Where the birds was filmed.
No, not the birds, but if anybody has ever seen Lady Bird, that the
Oh, I've heard
What
it's
kind of birds?
wonderful.
the Lady Bird movie, the writer and director of the Lady Bird film actually that was up for Oscars a few years ago. Actually went to my wife's high school. She was a few years behind her, so it's like having a Hollywood.
Right, connection.
A Hollywood, imagine a Hollywood company coming in and writing a movie that won Oscars about your high school and your high school experience. It was like surreal for her to watch it.
Very,
Like,
very.
she didn't necessarily
Right.
relate to any individual characters, but she got the whole.
That's very,
Yeah,
very
that's nice.
nice.
That's really cool.
Well, we'll stream it for you.
So you
No.
don't want to move your trip and go to this thing?
Well, seeing as I will probably be somewhere with my in-laws at that point.
Yeah,
I'll be early in the week, but
In all seriousness, if you want to adjust for the time difference and hit me on Skype, if you have an iPhone,
it's tough. It's
FaceTime,
3
whatever.
hours is tough. So, but thank you.
Okay, sure thing. If you change your mind, let me know. Just text me.
So we do have a question for you, however, Craig. I'll let Len ask it.
Yep.
So the spring cleaning, I take it you've heard about, right, for the MBTA?
No.
Yeah.
No, because
They're
they
going to clean up I guess they said the heavily used stations.
Wow.
And like brighten them up and clean them up.
That was my proposal.
Yeah, I was wondering if you had something to do with that. So, you hadn't heard about it, huh?
Wow, no.
Well, it's telepathic.
Yeah, apparently.
So you're not gonna be out there with Fantastic and a call?
You know, if they would let me, if it wasn't a union violation, I'd be happy to.
Yeah.
I clean up the yard.
I don't know whether to believe you or not.
I would.
You would? Okay. All right.
I would probably do some raking
Oh, maybe we
trash
should do
that's
that.
outside the stations.
Fine.
No, I think that's, this is me pivoting to be more serious about it, but ownership of the system and people viewing it as their system, it would go a long way, as opposed to, you don't leave trash on the floor of your house. People leave trash on the floor of buses and subways. And that's not, somebody will pick it up for me, that evil MBTA. I'm mad because my bus is 5 minutes late. You know what, here's my show of indignation, I'm dropping my Doritos. It's unfortunate, but it's the reality.
Spend that 5 minutes sweeping up.
And that adds, somebody says, we have to pay somebody to clean buses because of that. And some stations in far corners, you know, wind blows things around and it gets up in funny places and rafters that the normal cleaner can't get to. It just sits there and it makes the station look bad. And then somebody goes, oh, why is the station so bad? Well, because you dropped a Dorito bag
Because we're
6 months
late.
ago.
Yeah. 6 months ago.
It's a bit of a tangent, but also it is related. As soon as the fare increase discussion was going on, there was amongst many different commuter rail riders, as I witnessed through an app that purports to just report the time, but you can also type in your own feedback. If the train doesn't have like GPS working, you can type in, oh, just left such and such station. A lot of customers irate about the fare increase for typing in things like, there's nobody collecting fares from this car, you know, come in here and save, and, you know, make a civil disobedience protest against the fare hike. And I kind of equate that a little bit to people who don't take a stake, don't take a personal sense of ownership in the service. I mean, not paying your fare because you're pissed about something is just about as disappointing to me, I'll just say that, as, you know, somebody who doesn't feel ownership and says, I don't care about the system, and just throws trash on.
Well, I think it's a great idea. If you come up with some actual ways of doing that, it'd be terrific, even if they're really small.
Yeah, but it's actually an interesting question to see, has the T ever considered allowing community, like, would it be beneath them to allow communities
you know, we
to
do
come
river cleanups.
Right,
So, like,
exactly.
Mystic River cleanup's a big deal.
I would think it depends on who's responsible. I know I go to Fields Corner, not so much anymore, but the yard where the MBTA employees park, it's just filled with trash. And I don't know if anybody is paid to clean up the trash and mow the grass. I think it's like an orphan.
Yep.
So there may be many orphans.
Yeah.
And my guess is they're mostly in, am I going to say it?
Yes.
Poor neighborhoods,
Yes.
not in Wellesley or Brookline. Just saying.
That's upsetting.
Well, Brookline's gonna have some mood changes coming soon.
I think it's already changed. I think they opened already.
They did open over the weekend.
And I guess traffic was awful the first day and non-existent the second day.
That's the effect of the people who would purchase there the first day, and they never left the house the second day. Sorry if that was a predictable comment.
Yeah, but listen,
You know,
still funny.
obligatory, but still fun to hope. I hope.
No pun, but hey, we're losing.
I'm trying to be merciful. Come
All
on.
right.
Okay, so thank you very much for that consensus on 16th, 4 p.m. Tuesday. I will send out link to the slides about AFC 2.0 on my way home. And I think that covers operations, marketing, communications completely, even with the jump back to talk about the station cleaning.
Can Barry come?
Can someone who attends that meeting, who goes and does the demo,
my only concern that I had, that everybody said, they laughed at me when I said it, is that we're switching from the gate opening style.
Yep.
Is different. So today's gates open like this.
Yeah.
So it doesn't matter if you're coming or going.
Right,
It's
right,
the same open.
right.
These gates will swing. So if you're going in versus going out, they go in opposite directions.
Right.
My only concern, being someone who goes through South Station every day, whose turnstiles are plentiful, get still maxed out, is what is it? How does that work in reality when you have a competing? You have both a lot of people entering and leaving at the same time. Is it swinging back and forth, or is it frozen and I'm overblowing my fears of it?
But we'll be a bunch of people there. We can pretend that one gate that some of us want to go in and some of us want to go out. We can try it.
Yep, and I would not be surprised, and it's a question that I'll ask, I would not be surprised if the gates could be programmed so that a certain set of individual gates would only go in one direction, and it would have a big colored indicator. I mean, even the current gates have a green or a red or a yellow, I forget what the yellow means, but I mean, there is an indicator on the current ones even. Perhaps they're thinking about that, and they'll actually assign, almost like dedicated lanes for traffic on bridges.
It's an interesting area of question.
Yeah, I had the same question, Karen.
If somebody is blind,
Mm-hmm.
you know, what do they do?
Maybe what's the official name for the wider gates? The accessible gate? Maybe the accessible gate would always be from both directions.
Well, these are questions we can ask when we go there.
I'll take that note. Something to make sure we ask.
Okay, did everybody meet Eric last time? Eric's wonderful. Eric did some great
Eric
minutes.
Northeastern.
Yeah, Eric Northeastern, he did some wonderful minutes for us. Has anybody read them?
Did you, I stopped paying attention to the thread. Did you mail it out to folks, or did you or Carl mail it out?
I did not know, we did not. So we'll look at these next time. Where is Carl tonight? I think he's remote?
Carl is, well, I can't tell if it's actually him, but somebody is actively watching.
Okay, hi Carl. So, I will.
Carl, if you're listening and if you can hear us, do you want to ask anything? Because well, there's somebody who's been watching and has typed a few things, like at the very beginning, the audio, I had a setting wrong and the audio was terrible, and somebody typed, the audio is really bad. And then I fixed it, and he said, now it's better. So that's pretty good feedback.
I'll get these minutes out. Eric did a great job, really good job. And when you go tonight, be sure, Eric, to take the attendance list
It's
just so you know who's here. And, okay. And now I not say the plane does not know what the agenda is. We're probably in old business, new business, where are we?
All business, new business.
Business, new business.
External meeting reports.
Oh, here we go. Yeah, okay, so report on external meetings.
So, see, I went to
Let's do this.
the RTAC meeting, and then Scott Hanway reported on Rail Vision 40, and so it's mostly about commuter rail, and there's some interesting initiatives on that, and his presentation may be up on the Boston MPO's site, which is where RTAC resides, but there are some interesting ideas about how to make commuter rail more get more service on it, so that people want to use it more, and so that was that, and then there was discussion about the studies in the Unified Planning Work Program, so they wanted us to kind of give our priority for those studies. And there is as I'm always pleased to see with our TAC being a real emphasis on transit. So it's a very transit friendly school. It was also heartening to see that people really want this one study that will look at the predictions being other studies with respect to the effects that a project would have, and then follow up to see if those predictions came to pass. And there's also the thought that that should be a part of every study, where you do the follow-up, because that's where you get the real knowledge about how good your study is, how good your methodology is. And it's a mid-range price study, but I think if we make that a part of all studies, it would benefit everyone. So we'll support that. So that was our TAC. What's the BPO meeting? Nothing really sticks out. I mean, Jonathan Belcher and our CTPS rep, they were very dapper, in their presentations to the PO. And of course, their studies got approved, in their interesting studies, so we followed up on those at some point in time. So that was it for those two meetings. Those external meetings for me. And that's external meetings. Where do you want to go next?
Does anybody else have any external meetings they'd like to discuss?
I'm not sure how, well, it's not directly exactly an external meeting, but maybe it's new business. I had a conversation with a Keolis person about a staffing change that is at least at North Station and perhaps at South Station as well, that raises some concerns that I have about the coverage of what's called the car inspector. Just a little bit of background, I won't spend too long on this, but at North Station and South Station, they're at all times during service hours, there is at least one person at North Station, and I believe there's at least two, perhaps three at South Station, Keolis staff who were responsible for minor mechanical repairs and otherwise validating that a set is okay to go above and beyond what the conductors and assistant conductors usually do. They are going to be scaled back in their hours. I don't know starting when, but there's going to be no coverage of a car inspector at, what I know for sure is at North Station after about 10 p.m. Currently, it goes until 12:30, which covers the very last train to go out at 12:10. So the concern I have is that if the car inspectors are sent home at 10 o'clock and there are any equipment problems from 10 o'clock on, and there's one train going out of North Station on every line, every one of the four, Haverhill, Lowell, Fitchburg, one of Newburyport or Rockport, but not both. So there's a big possibility that a minor mechanical issue could delay a train significantly, which is a kind of a big deal considering it's the last train. I'm going to put feelers out, and lacking anything else, I'm going to even email David Scory or his assistant, whose business card I also have, after the last time he came here, because it seems like penny-wise, pound foolish at first glance. So that's my statement for tonight. Any concerns or comments on that for right now?
I think first I'd like to say that I'm not sure your clandestine meetings with off-the-record sources counts was really what we were meaning by external meetings and groups, but okay.
So call it new business then.
We'll be inclusive. That's, you're expanding the definition a little bit.
I didn't find that to be as clandestine as you did.
Like you can tell when he starts out very slow and he's searching for the words, like, how do I phrase this?
Yes.
It's
Friend
true.
of mine who,
Yeah.
maybe
A
not.
guy, yeah, a guy who I talk to who knows another guy who knows another guy. Yeah. But all things aside, it's a very serious thing.
Why don't you report back? I think it's hard for us to comment on it without fully understanding what the role and responsibility is of that person. And to me, my question would be, what magic powers or authorities does this individual have versus a conductor on those trains? And does he have a knowledge, he or she have a knowledge or skill set that the conductor on that train doesn't have? And if they've done the analysis and said, hey, look, every time we've had one of these things, it's essentially a stuck door, and the conductor knows just how to fix it just as well as this magic inspector knows how to fix it, then let's eliminate coverage during these hours. It's just hard to know without understanding what that delta is between what the staff that's currently on those trains can do versus what additional responsibilities or knowledge base that other person has.
Exactly.
That would be before going, I think I would answer get better armed with information before going. My only advice would be to get better armed with that information before attacking, before going directly at kills.
Oh, yeah,
in terms of,
yeah. I don't want
being accusatory or anything.
Oh, yeah, oh, absolutely. Yeah, I don't want to find a solution that doesn't have a problem behind it.
Right.
Okay, any other external meetings, old business, has anybody done their training? Anybody?
I've done all my training because I had to do it for Massport, CAC as well. So I don't have a way of scanning documents so they can print it out at home and sign and date it.
Can you just, do you have a smartphone?
No, I gave it up 6 years ago.
Wow. That's so good.
Yeah, I looked around and see what was
Yeah, so, could you make a copy of it?
Yeah, I can. I'll just.
Well, you can also, I mean, if you can print it, then bring it in and one of us can use our smartphones to snap it, send it to you electronically that way.
I say PDFs, basically.
I forgot, but I'm putting it in the calendar on my smartphone. On Sunday, I will do it on the 31st.
Okay.
It's not that bad, we just have to decide to do it.
I guess it's the same question over there.
Just remember the last time it got circulated.
I can send it again.
It takes like a couple hours.
There's actually two things. One is ethics and one is public
Right,
meetings.
but I can just get people to do the COI right now, the conflict of interest and ethics one, would be really good.
Let's get them both.
Yeah.
Well, it's a public meeting and
Oh,
ethics,
right.
separate ethics. I have to be the HIPAA for health.
I did that too.
And I haven't done that one yet. And I'm going to do
I
like
think that's an
14
office,
sessions.
not through this one, but yeah, you have to do this in office. Okay, and any other old business, new business?
New business is
We have a letter from us.
on governance, so it's his first draft.
Looks good.
Yeah, so thanks. If anyone wants to add anything to it, as I've said repeatedly, all into wordsmithing, so, and I can send you the Word document if you want to mark it up. If I could get your feedback by Friday, that would be great, and my goal is to hand deliver it to members of the Joint Committee on Transportation next Tuesday, and the governor, some of the governor, my reps, and of course,
I also appreciate the layout.
I have
I
a
think letters
question.
that like drift onto the top with 2 lines on the next page.
I thought too, that I like the fact that it was very succinct.
Yeah.
That you made your point and that you didn't hedge or, it might be useful if it's like this is an idea, here is, I think it's very well written.
Okay, thanks to me. Well, do read it closely, especially I guess the last sentence of the first point. If members of the general public are included, they should be independent of any action groups. Yeah, and it's not to say that they can't be members of an advocacy group, but they should just be independent of it. We don't want, people who say, I can't take a position because I have to go back to my group to
Right.
make their vote on it.
Well, I mean, board of directors are loyalty first, has to go to your board.
Your question, Karen?
I actually, I answered it myself. I realized I didn't understand what the board of directors, but it's because the FMC is now, there is no board of directors.
Right, it's been.
Yeah, so I said, I didn't know what you were talking about.
Yeah.
So now I understand.
So yeah, then forgive me on this follow-up question. So if I'm reading this correctly, the advisory, the AB is a definite, and then our proposal, your proposal is to, in addition to an AB, we need a board of directors.
Right.
Below that.
Right. So it used to be that we had a board of directors, and the advisory board always existed, and the advisory board kind of exists in parallel to the board of directors.
It's independent.
It is independent, yeah. But in terms of power, or authority, it's been neutered, by legislative action, and so I think initially the most authority they had was over the operating budget, and I think they were only able to reduce line items, in the operating budget, and I'd like to, give them more authority, over all things MBTA related, but in particular over the operating budget, with the ability to increase or decrease line items. So I had a talk with Paul Regan about this. So a lot of these are suggestions, and I may have mentioned in the last meeting that he had also suggested that the MBTA be able to develop its capital and operating budget, but also mostly its capital budget independently of the math side. And I wrestled with that one. I even had a follow-up conversation with him. I talked to some other people. I just don't think it's
Do they have the capacity?
Well, it's just that personally, and he understood my feelings of this. I kind of like that the MBTA CIP is under mass odds. I kind of like that everyone has to kind of coordinate. And so I didn't want to see us now kind of existing outside of that framework. And certainly existing outside that framework without any input or easy input to the state, meaning that it can easily see into our process and us see into theirs. So we may give us some independence in that, but I think that the coordination is worth it. And also, it's like, the board of directors are going to be appointed by the governor, the Secretary of State is going to be appointed by the governor, the Secretary of State is going to be part of the board of directors to be ultimately.
Who's the advisory board? Who's the advisory board?
The advisory board is a collection of representatives from the X number of communities that are served by the MBTA. So it's a big group. And I don't know their structure. I know that Paul Regan is the executive director. I don't know to the extent that they have like an executive committee or whatever. So I don't know how they meet. But I do know they get input from representatives, and usually like town meeting members or I'm not meeting members, town managers.
The only thing I'm struggling with here a little bit is we have this big amorphous advisory board,
Yes.
and you have a 12 boards, thinking of like a board of directors being like a 10-person group reporting to this big giant advisory board that kind of
Well,
away.
the advisory board has been around for a very long time, and they're effectively a corrective oversight.
But they are Paul Regan. I don't know.
I know,
what
the
he-
staff obviously in that kind of
Yeah,
situation.
but do we want to have? I mean-
Carries a lot of weight, but they're not going to go away. I mean, they're
No,
embedded
but
in
do
the
you
staff.
want to, why would you want to be on a board if you have to report to Paul Regan in everything you do?
I'm not sure what you're saying.
Well, it says here, on all matters, oversight over the board of directors. So why would anybody want to be on the board of directors if Paul Regan is going to make all the decisions?
Well, this is the board of directors of the T, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it's not the board of directors of the advisory board, it's the T itself.
No, but Paul Regan is the advisory board. There is, all the other.
He doesn't control the T.
He controls the advisory board.
I know, this is the board of directors of the T.
I know, but the advisory
But
board
when he's
is
saying,
gonna.
the way this is written is the board of directors that we're proposing is subservient to the advisory.
Answers to the advisory board, well then,
Well, functionally,
it should.
no matter what we say, that's not going to happen.
Well, then why say it?
Well, ask Len.
No, well, that's what we're discussing.
Sure. And so I hear you, and I would like to think that if this did happen, it would be more than just Paul Regan being saying in it, but I think the board of directors does need to report to someone, and even
Why?
huh?
Why can't the board of directors be the board of directors? Like, I mean, that's in any corporate hierarchy.
Yeah.
That's the top of the house.
Well, with respect, the T is part of the Department of Transportation of the state, which is part of the executive branch, which is run by the governor. So the governor is going to control the board of directors of the T
So we elect
through the
governor.
secretary.
So if you
But
don't
this,
elect the governor, forget about it.
the advisory board has been an effective watchdog over the
It's
years.
Paul Regan, it's not, and I don't think they meet on a regular basis, just saying, we gotta know more about the workings of I'm not gonna vote for this, because I don't know, I like Paul Regan, but he's a one-man operation. I
Well-
don't think they have routine meetings, like they meet the second Monday.
And they
or
may
something.
not. The advisory board is effectively the representative of the municipality.
That's what
of the
on
region.
paper, but in the reality, it's Paul Regan. Not that he's not, he's a
But how are you
wonderful guy.
proposing changing that?
How are you gonna change it?
So
That's what I'm asking.
No, and I'm just having an open conversation about this, but one of the options we have is what we could propose a board of directors, half made of appointees of the governor and half made of appointees from the advisory board.
You could.
And that you're splitting the baby in that case to say the governor gets his half and then the municipalities get their half, and those are the and you cap it at some level that it's a functioning group. I think one of the nice things about the FMCB was it's right sized to have decisions without being a giant caucus. It's a small enough group to be able to be nimble and work. So, you could within your there's that you could do a third group if you wanted to say a third is the governor, a third is members of the advisory board, and a third is completely outside.
It's MIT.
Right, or members of the public, or whoever. Just exploring options.
No, I hear it, and I mean, my goal in this was to give them a sense of input from the advisory board, and its interface with the board of directors. I didn't want to say much about how the board of directors was formed, or the constituent, what's the word for it? How the nature of the members of the board of directors. In fact, I felt that I was maybe going a little far when I talked about the members of the public and not being a part of the advocacy groups. And so I just kind of wanted to leave that up to them to decide, but I did want to emphasize a greater role for the board of directors. So I made that a powerful role with the assumption that that wouldn't be the case, but that that would be the start of the notion of it, and that they could ramp down from there, as opposed to starting at a lower level of influence and going down from there. So that's why it's constructed that way. It's more just kind of an opening argument as opposed to a directive. So I hear you all, and I agree, but that's why the letter's constructed as it is.
So I would say it appears that there's more meat to discuss here than first appeared. I would just add three things. To change how the T itself works, we would have to have a vote of the legislature as well as the permission of the governor or an overriding vote. to change how the advisory board works, we would have to have agreement of all the contracting municipalities, however they vote. And both of those are going to have to conform with federal transportation conformity regulations, which rest on two different things. One is the Clean Air Act and one is the surface transportation funding bills that get passed every 5 to 7 years. So that's the context for this discussion. All I'm saying is it's not as much free will on our part as we might at first think, because you're going to have to fit within those existing government constructs.
Right. This is just to kind of get the thoughts out there to them without the assumption, you know, that this is going to be adopted, as it is. But I hear you all.
So,
go ahead.
Sorry, do you have a question?
No, I was going to make a comment, please go ahead.
Oh, sure. I was just going to ask, are we operating the framework that the FMCB either can or won't be extended after a certain date?
Yes. My understanding is that it's going away at probably is it going to be the end of this fiscal year? Certainly the end of the next fiscal year, but I think it's the end of this fiscal year. They had like 3 years and then a 2-year extension. And I've heard nothing that says they're going to get any extension beyond, you know, the 3+2.
Would we consider advocating for an extension?
You could do that.
Or what are your thoughts on that approach?
Well, I guess the question is to what extent are they really like the board of directors? And to the extent that they are, then I could push for that. To the extent they aren't, and that the board of directors would have more power, that would be better. But I guess it really comes down to whether most of the current members of FMCB would stay, or that we have a staggered departure of members of FMCB to the extent that people are happy with them. Does that answer your question?
To a degree. I mean, I think it's a question of, as the Rock, are we happy with the FMCB? Do we want to advocate for an extension, or do we want to advocate for a change in the oversight structure to something that we would view as more effective? I don't think that's a conversation that we've had, but just kind of thinking about, we're at one place today, we're going to be at some place tomorrow.
Right.
What do we want the future to look like?
Yeah.
I think they've been a lot more serious than what preceded them. I mean, they were imagined as a crisis management tool of the governor and the legislature jointly.
So in that context, that it was an emergency situation, are we now past the emergency? Are we still in it? I mean,
no, we're still in it. We're still in it, and we were, I shouldn't keep answering questions, but we're still in it, and we were in it for a long time before they were there to actually start making some progress and some decisions. So I think in that regard that they, just from my limited observation, they've been helpful, because they actually have tackled things. They haven't solved things, but they actually have tackled them directly with great public participation available. It's been a pretty serious effort.
Well, yeah, I mean, I'm overall pleased. But you know, they were given the authority, you know, to do things. And so,
right.
The previous board, I guess there is authority on paper, then there's real authority. And so, the previous board didn't have, you know, the real authority. Although I will say this, it did help me with FMCB to kind of push the general manager out of the way and to make it pretty much a non-position. So it's like the FMCB is pretty much going to determine what's going to happen, and the GM is just going to answer them. And the previous structure was not like that.
Yeah.
And so that helped. What I like about
I think a little shift there would be rephrasing that a little bit. I would say it turns the GM position into more of the day-to-day manager.
Yeah, that's right. It's executive director of.
It focuses on day-to-day management of TA as opposed to long-term strategy of the TA. It shifts the focus of the GM.
Okay, fine with that. And another thing that I really like about the FMCB, and this is just one thing that I really want to see stay, and if I were going to add something to this, it would be, that it should remain as transparent as the current FMCB is, so that we get access, to the presentations and the meetings, because that's been the most valuable thing to me, and thanks to them, I feel that I understand more about, the operations of the team than I did before we came to this, because it was just kind of hard to get the information that we're getting now, which is why you hear me so often just say, read the docs. So this is such much information.
They shoulder direct, visible responsibility that the board really didn't shoulder before.
Right. Yeah.
So from that point, I think the point of view that you're both raising here, right, is I'm not sure we have consensus yet on whether we would agree that this is, should we first be advocating for the extension of the board, see where that ultimately really lands before going down this path of saying, okay, now that we for sure know it's ending, that we are, or at least we did our fight to keep it, that we are advocating for this new transition. And then if we are advocating for this new transition, I think we have some disagreements around what the board makeup is. How should we tackle board makeup at all?
Yeah.
And then how does it align with the advisory?
It would be really great to get their opinion on what you just said.
Who's opinion?
The FMCB directly. They're the people who should have developed an opinion on whether that structure should stay in place or whether there's a natural evolution from it, because they have directly been shouldering responsibility, even though they may not have been given Fort Knox to work with.
Yeah. Well, 2 weeks ago about that, one is to talk to the general manager who was part of FNCB for a long time.
Yeah.
There is another alternative, and I just don't want to say but I'll explore it. It could be very entertaining. All right. I was under the impression that this has a little bit of a time constraint to it, but what I will do on my own is contact the members of the Joint Transportation Committee and put what I want out there on my own, and then find out from them what kind of time constraint there is, and we can work on this until we are content with it, or until we decide that we want to give up on it. It'll be an interesting exercise. That even if we don't meet the time limit on this, at least maybe by going through the exercise, we'll get to just get better at it. For next time, but I'll be willing to work this. So I will send people the Word version of this. You can mark it up however you want, and we'll go from there. I may iterate between meetings. I probably will. And if I really feel that it has to be done much sooner rather than later, then I'll iterate more times between the meetings. Otherwise, we'll just kind of get an updated version of this. The more input I get from you, the better. I'll remember what's been said at this meeting and go from there. But the goal is to really keep it short and not really like give a step on how to do it.
I think that's very well written in that respect. Very precise. They're not going to read something long and flowery.
Right. They're going to work
And
their
they
own.
shouldn't have to.
Yeah. And they're going to work. It's just to give them a sense of, and then also to kind of make it clear to them that we're out here,
Right.
and we care, you know,
Yeah.
and we give our input. We're not expecting you to do what we say, but just listen,
Yeah.
think about it, you know, so that was context. All right.
Well, thank you very
Yeah,
much.
sure.
Thank you. Any other new business?
I went to the MBTA website today, and, you know, we're not really on it anymore. I think our minutes are from 2014. It's, we have our own website, seems fine, but we're not connected. You go to mbta.com, put in Rider Oversight Committee, and you get a lot of old stuff. So I don't know how we can.
Eric, do you have any insight on that? Okay.
I'll resend what we got from Trish the last time that told us how, I think either you or Carl needs to, or should, as the co-chairs, do the submission for the upcoming events. I mean, I could be wrong and it could be any of us, but I was thinking it would be either you or Carl.
They have very few upcoming events. In the old days, or the past, used to be a whole bunch of stuff, this is going on, there was some meeting on
Somebody's not
something.
maintaining it, because that's funny, because I've been on that site looking for other things, and you can't find anything on it.
Yeah, I think we just need to submit it. And
No,
then
but
it
I'm
should show up.
saying that there must be MBTA meetings all over town for different things, and there was one meeting for something. But in the old days, like 2 years ago, you'd go public meetings and they'd have a whole list of meetings that were coming up.
Wow.
Not anymore. It seems very sparse,
Okay.
very glitzy. The new website looks fabulous, but there's not the same information that there used to be.
Thank you.
Maybe, do we want to take this up in marketing communications? And maybe take 10 minutes, because we have the video screen in there, if you can figure out how to plug your laptop in there, and maybe just bring it up live, and just be a good group exercise to kind of go through the website. Everybody can do, go look at it on your own ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah, maybe we can just have a discussion as we bring it through and maybe come up with a list of suggestions.
Yeah, and
I mean, I don't think we want to nitpick. I think we all, at least I appreciate speaking on my own. I love the fresh look of the new page and the cleanliness of it. I mean, a very modern, clean, good website.
Right.
But if there is information about us or any other public thing that we think is missing, I think we can respectfully bring it up and go from there.
Yeah.
Let's get organized on it rather than talking about something that we're all trying to remember off the.
For what it's worth, the event page for April has 9 different things spanning April 1st, April 29th already. And the March page has enough that I've got to scroll the page.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'm over the hill.
I wouldn't say that.
Yes,
I mean,
fine.
it would be great if there was some way of representing later what you're seeing at that moment. I don't know, would you take like a photo with your phone of what you're seeing on the screen at that moment?
Remember, I do not have a smartphone.
Oh, I thought you had gotten one.
No.
No,
Oh,
so
okay.
I look at the website on
Okay.
computers.
Yeah, I knew that. I
Yeah.
thought you did get a phone that had a camera in it. Okay.
No, it's
My mistake.
some kind of postage stamp camera.
You know, most senior
That works.
citizens do not have smartphones.
Right.
And I am definitely a senior citizen.
Me too.
And I don't want a smartphone. I look at the T every time, I don't want to be one of those people that is sitting there looking
But
at
it's
it.
an issue for things like paying.
Yes, it is.
What they used to do before is have your face in newspapers and books.
Well, there was actually a little kickback on that, right? I mean, I see a lot of people reading notebooks now, but.
I don't use my phone in public. I don't use it on the train. I like to see what's going on
Yeah, me
around me.
too.
And I
Me
like
too.
to, and it's, I would say 90% of the time what's going around you is fairly enjoyable.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, so.
What are you on?
I was thinking the same thing.
Yeah, I know. I just find, riding
Yeah.
a bus, looking out the window,
Yeah.
or I just.
Like in the summertime.
You know.
I agree.
Yeah, I enjoy it very much. So.
We were all on the lobby, you can't see what's underneath, it's like, oh, well, whatever.
So now, I have to keep going to my smartphone.
I'll do a little bit. In our last meeting, we had an excellent presentation on the Better Bus Project.
Yes.
And we focused most of the time on the routes and and how the meeting process was going to go, and et cetera, et cetera. And that was all great. Part of the presentation, towards the end of it, and part of the general idea of the Better Bus Project is there were some recommendations kind of moving forward about the use of expanding the use of dedicated bus lanes. And I raised my concern that I raise every time. We just do not have a very good track record of maintaining those dedicated bus lanes or allowing only buses to use them. And the response was, well, you know, I think that the two-part response was, we hear you, and then it was, you know, we're testing some new paint in Roslindale that's better paint, and we're going to talk to the municipalities and try to build in a few, ensure those municipalities are up for better enforcement if they end up getting those lanes. Well, so I guess that's the old business part of it. What brings in new business is, and why I'm bringing up, getting on my soapbox again in front of this committee, is two things. One, with the kind of Globe article highlighting the desire to expand the Silver Line to Kendall and other places north of Boston. That is clearly going to rely on the use of more bus lanes. So we have if we're no longer doubling down on the Southern Line. I think we're tripling down, or we're all in on the Silver Line. If we're going to be all in on the Silver Line, we have to get this idea of dedicated bus lanes right. We have to find what that is. I'm not sure we've done a good enough job of defining what our satisfactory level of dedicated bus lane is. I feel like we have an ideal, but then we quickly compromise that ideal when that ideal becomes difficult.
Well, that's often maybe part of the issue.
Yep, and I guess the question is, how far are we willing to compromise to the point where it's not fair to call that bus rapid transit? That it is a
Better bus.
It is a better bus, and it is a new route. But is it truly bus rapid transit? And is it worth the cost of adding shiny new bus stations?
Yeah, I think, if I could, I think that that's a terrific topic. It's something that concerns me, and I think among other things we need pretty good life cycle analysis and look back at analysis to see, one of the potential pitfalls of bus rapid transit is that it's a little bit less capital intensive, but it can be more operating expense intensive, and if you're not careful, you're trading a little bit of capital saving for a lot of operating costs. And so that's one issue, and unless you're on top of that, that's a problem. And the second issue is that when, I teach transportation exposure science, including at Harvard Medical School. And when I teach the students there, some of whom are urban designers from Harvard Grad School of Design, who are really interested in designing healthy communities, the papers I use are the best papers that compare modes with regard to exposure. So the best papers currently, the last year, besides really good environmental epidemiology of cities and exposure and health outcomes, I used a multimodal paper from Bogota by hand, which is, well, I get the others mixed up, but multimodal paper from Bogota and a multimodal paper from Sacramento done about the same time. And the Bogota paper showed that by far the highest exposures in Bogota were to the people who were on bus rapid transit, more than everybody else, walkers, bicyclists, train riders, more than everybody else, people in cars. In Sacramento, by far the least exposures, and they have about the same number of different modes in Sacramento, were the people on light rail. So the two services that are most often compared with each other have opposite endpoints when you're looking at the exposure and likely health outcomes of the riders?
Well, so I'll add a couple of things. One, and the bill tied to the same thing. The Focus 40 has come out with its final plan. And two of the things that they are developing in short order is the bus rapid transit, or at least bus lanes, and the electric buses. And they are going to start working on fleshing those out. And that will be, a large part of that will be public input. And so there was a presentation on it to the FCB in, I think, on March 14th. Go and look at that back. Like I said, the report itself has come out. So read the report. And to the extent that it's something you want to pursue sooner rather than later, we could get I don't know if it's Scott Hanway still, but whoever is going to do the next stage of Focus 40 and to talk with us and bring this issue up.
And with projects like that, there really has to be good alternatives analysis. You can't just say this is what we want and this is your option, yes or no. And so that would be key to me. I would not take it seriously until there's a really good alternatives analysis. Like, what if the Silver Line had been compared with rapid transit or with light rail when it first started being instituted? What is the alternatives analysis for the proposed extension of Silver Line north of Mystic and through Sullivan into the core? If there's not a good alternatives analysis, there's a systematic problem.
All right, so it sounds like we have two kind of foundational problems. One is, and I think you've expanded a level above where I was going with it. What I like is something this committee wants to think, we need to think about and ponder is, are we supportive of the expansion of bus rapid transit?
Right.
Or are we at least, if not unsupportive, or we at least want to ensure that the proper work is done to ensure that we're doing it right. And by doing it right means a comparison to say, both from a budget perspective, to say,
yep,
we're not doing the cheap thing now that's going to cost us a whole bunch more later.
Right.
Gosh knows, you guys can speak to this better than I can. It's not always capital's problem. It's our operating budget's problem. Why are we setting ourselves up for worse operating pain and more fare hikes down the road? Because we can throw up some Silver Line real quick. Two, are there other better options? Three, what about the environmental impact of it? And then if they do, regardless of our first recommendation to do bus return, if they do decide to go down that road, how will we, and this is to your folks' reform,
yeah,
how seriously are we taking the bus rapid transit plans?
Yeah.
I was going to bring this up just from the Globe extension of the Silver Line, and then every time I walk down, because I walk Essex Street today, theoretically has a dedicated bus lane. On the left, I saw two different buses go down that. Even the bus was not using the dedicated bus lane. It was a bus traveling down the center lane. So if we can't get buses to use dedicated bus lanes, I'm never mind keep the cars out of them. Because,
right.
How is this ever going to work?
So the rated gas dude, I'm not phrasing this the right way. Means we have more mentality in the situation where they use bus rapid transit.
Yeah. They're also different cities. I mean, to be fair, they're different cities. So,
but they were comparing that to their rapid transit lines. What were they comparing it to?
well, every mode available in those two cities was part of these studies. They were single city studies. They're actually much better than existed 5 or 10 years ago. I was pretty impressed. Usually when I teach, I do a lit check to see what's new and whether there's some stuff that's.
What were they comparing it to?
Well, they had pedestrians, bicyclists, autos, rapid transit, whatever modes people could use to get to and from work, basically in the core of those two cities.
So
in Bogota and in Sacramento.
The bus rapid transit had the greatest mortality.
Had the greatest exposure. I mean, this was an exposure analysis. It was not epidemiology, but it's pretty easy to I mean, I do integrated research on environmental epidemiology of transportation, but sometimes they're done separately. The exposure and the travel modes are done as one thing. Then you have to take some health studies and, impute how they relate to each other. This was just an exposure study, but in my world, if the exposure is higher, the health effects are higher.
Yeah, I guess I was just wondering to what extent that the exposure is caused by things other than buses. So like, if we did electric buses here, is it just by virtue?
No, it can be both.
On the road.
Yeah, no, they're taking the total exposure while you're in the mall. So in other words, it could be self-pollution, or it can be completely not self-pollution. It could be a clean mode in a bad location, a cleaner mode in a bad location.
Would you explain why the walker wasn't better than the light rail in Sacramento?
Yeah.
The walker is great.
The walker is exactly right. And as cyclists, there's a big move. We're not really leading in these kinds of multimodal things, because the U.S. has tended to stick to its car, to its traffic models more than Western Europe or Asia or some other places. But yeah, so with cyclists, for example, there's a huge difference if you're on a lightly traveled road, rush hour, or a regional path, or if you're in the middle of an arterial highway. And that's, in Somerville, that's why people were overjoyed, even though it's not fast for bicyclists, that the Green Line is able to complete the regional path from Lexington, Bedford to downtown Boston off-road, so that whoever wants to use that can be off-road. It's a little slower. The guys in spandex can go faster sometimes on the street, but a lot of people can't really do that. It's too challenging. And
the bike path is definitely included during that session, right?
It absolutely is.
I think it's lost sometimes on people that you're getting.
Well, and speaking of the casino generated studies like what you just brought up, Northern Strand is expected to come down from Lynn as a off-road, largely off-road path to get to the casino and to have a bike and ped bridge across to the Orange Station at Assembly Square. It's spectacular. That will hook up. Eventually, it will get through the Sullivan Square and hook up with the Minuteman, which is hooking up with the Charles W. White Pass in Boston. And Grand Junction will come, I think, across from DU and come up through MIT and Kendall and also meet. So you'll have basically 4 compass directions on the regional path network. It's just spectacular. People can use it for recreation if they want, but it can be serious commuting, and it can be healthy, it can be restorative in many different ways. So it's really terrific progress from my point of view. I applaud the bicycle activists and the path advocates who worked on that.
This is really fascinating.
Yeah, and one of the keys was, of course, Dalton kept the project under budget. But another key was a lot of people worked to have the T wants to expand the maintenance facility in Somerville, which serves all the commuter rails. We go to stops, which is fine with us. But that's the last act. So they can't get to that unless they do the things like the regional bike network first. And it's the most expensive act. So.
Okay, well, is that it for new business, or we still have a little bit of time?
Well, you can give us some time back.
Okay, so everybody's getting 5 minutes back, we'll go to public comments. So that's it. Meeting is adjourned. Oh.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
Yeah, well, people have to